Hey guys, welcome back to Our Non-Toxic Podcast. I'm Hannah and I don't know how to tie a tie. I really had a vision for this outfit and I saw on Pinterest where a girl took a necktie and tied it into the most perfect floppy dangly bow and it was so cute. And I really wanted to recreate that today, but after about 16 painstaking minutes of trying to figure it out, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it tight enough. And then I was pulling too hard and the ears were too long, the ears of the bow. It was sagging down. It looked ridiculous. Then I tried to tie the tie really and decided that this outfit doesn't warrant that kind of a tie being tied. It looked like I was like the stereotypical character that's going to win some kind of algebra competition. However, I am not that great at math, so it would be misleading. And I undid that. But if I didn't have this tie on, I feel like the outfit itself is too boring. The bottom half is really cute. You just can't see it because I'm seated at a table, which is unfortunate. But I am just leaving the tie as is right now. So if you don't respect this creative choice, please keep your opinions to yourself because I almost had a complete crash out over what I'm wearing on my neck. And that was not a good use of my remaining crash outs. I have them like lives in a video game. I wake up with like three things I can fall apart over each day, which you might say that seems like kind of a lot in a 24-hour period, considering you're probably asleep for like 6 to 7 of those hours. And to that I would say, yeah, I agree. But sometimes life circumstances require different leniencies for freakouts. So I'm working with about 3 a day, and I don't want to use one today on a necktie. Moving on. We're drinking an Olipop today. I saved this for you guys. Ready? Beautiful, crispy, delightful. Did I choose this flavor because it matches my shirt and the flowers behind me? Yes. Delicious. I can't wait to take only 2 sips of that for the entire episode because I get distracted. Anywho, it's Wednesday. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, it's tomorrow. Happy future to you guys. This episode is going to be so fun, a little silly. I hope I can somehow execute it in a way that's meaningful. Sometimes if I just talk for so long and put things out, I get insecure that I'm not adding any value to anyone's life whatsoever. But at the same time, I have to check myself and think, no one is looking to me to add exponential value to their life. No one is looking to me for wisdom, guidance, anything besides maybe killing an hour of their auditory listening time. So that's the zone I have to stay in. Okay, that's fine. Quick life notes. I realized how simple of a creature I am this week. Okay, I just got a glimpse of myself in the viewfinder with the laptop and the tie and the way I'm sitting. I look like a newscaster. Anyways, there's only so much I can do, okay? Anyways, back to me. The weather and my mood, the connection between the two of them, it is so parallel. I'm worrying that I might not have evolved to the level of complexity that most humans should. Because last week, if you recall, Wednesday was like, it was spooky outside. The wind was so high that you could hear it whistling outside, every single window, wall. It was like scary. There was dust everywhere. It looked a little bit like a hazy movie scene. It was overcast. The sun wasn't really out. It was not nice enough to go outside. The air quality was terrible. It just looked creepy outside. It looked very ominous. My mood for the whole day was so out of whack. It was one of those things where I'm like, is there something going on with the moon? I don't really buy into that stuff, but there are some days that are just so weird that I can't help but wonder if there's a larger force at play. And I almost listened to my crying playlist, haven't listened to those in many moons. It was just a weird time for me. It was a low point and I was questioning everything. I was like, what am I even doing with my life? I was like rethinking everything. It was just one of those days where you're like, I don't know what's real. Am I even real? What's the whole point of anything? What are any of us here for? Just really in my own head, feeling very melancholy, very introspective. The very next day, it was a bright and sunny day. The wind was not trying to blow everyone off the face of the planet. And I was like, life is amazing. I don't think anyone else has ever enjoyed a day as much as I am enjoying this day. I am the happiest person alive. Everything is great. I'm overflowing with happiness and abundance, and everything is wonderful. And then I had a moment where I was like, you know what? I am so affected by the weather that maybe I should be concerned that something so out of my control dictates so much of how I see the world. But at the same time, what can I do about it? In other words, it's been sunny for the past couple days and it hasn't been my problem, so I'm not going to think too hard about it. So That's it. I'm a very, very simple creature. And that's all there is to say about that. I have tanorexia. Let's talk about what that means. I just heard it. I thought it was hilarious. So I'm getting a spray tan tomorrow. A real spray tan, not just like me doing it at 11 p.m. in my room and messing everything up, which is good. It's overdue. One of my friends is having a birthday party on Friday that's red carpet themed, and the dress that I have is open back. I can't reach my own back. I don't trust my husband to do it either. He's not proven himself to be a worthy tan connoisseur. So rather than just have like a crazy pale back or like a streak from me trying to hyperextend my arm and do it, I'm just going to go to Urban Glow because they have never done me wrong before. And honestly, I should have been going every week because of the way that I've messed up my joints. If you saw my knees, ankles, and elbows, you would say you need a professional to be involved in this indefinitely. It's just that the logistics involved in getting a spray tan are so much more complicated than anything that trivial should be, to the point that I've said this before. I feel like that one meme of the girl who's like doing all the math. There's equations all around my head, and I'm trying to like calculate with my hair wash day, with my workouts. I want the tan to be fresh for Friday, but I can't get it Friday because I have plans and shoots all day on Friday. So when do I have a 6 to 8 hour period where I'm not going to be sweaty, otherwise damp? I don't need to take a shower. I can be ugly. I don't need to be in public, not working out. When can I carve out that 6 to 8 hour window that's also within like a day or two maximum of this event? It's very challenging. I know that there are people in the world dealing with actual issues. However, they pale in comparison to my tan dilemma. I even asked ChatGPT. I broke everything down. I was like, here, I can't go on Wednesday because I have meetings and shoots all day Wednesday. Thursday, I could go maybe in the afternoon, but that means that I have to switch my workout to the morning, which would work, but then I'm going to be working into the evening, and I have evening plans. I guess I could move the evening plans, but then it was a whole thing. I don't want to bore you with the details because I've already spent way too many of my brain cells on this particular issue, but I did figure out the ideal time to get a spray tan, and I booked it, which leads me back to where I am now, letting the previous spray tan fade. And by spray tan, I mean like the self-tan that's from the drugstore that I've been doing. And it's not good, but I would rather be splotchy orange tan at my own hands than pale. And I don't know what that says about me. I feel like whenever I don't have any kind of pigment to my skin, I feel like I've gained 45 pounds. I have so many scars that I didn't even know I had. Somehow I have cellulite in places like I didn't even know you could get cellulite. I can see my veins through my skin, especially with dark hair. It just washes me out so badly. I also have been tan on and off for so long that I don't even have pale enough makeup. If you look close enough at my neck, you'll see like exactly the line where I stopped bringing my makeup down. So don't do that. I'm wearing a collared shirt, so just focus on how much you love my outfit, if you don't mind. Don't look too closely at my neck or I'm going to get insecure. I've just been struggling with that all week, and it's really difficult for me not to want to hunker down and hide in my house. I just have to remind myself that literally it does not matter, and no one cares about the level of orange that my skin is, except for me. That really wasn't worth talking about for so long, but I thought it would be funny if any of you guys also understand how difficult it is. Don't even get me started on event logistics. If you have or a vacation, if you have to wash your hair at a certain time, you have to time it because you have workouts. You don't want to wash it too early in the week because then you're going to sweat, ruin the hair wash, ruin the volume. If you have a pedicure, like for example, if you're going to get your nails and toes done before you go on a trip or before like a big event, then you want to get your nails and toes done before you get a spray tan because they're going to scrub your shins. But if you're going to go get a pedicure, then you get it. I don't have to spell this out for you guys. It's very, very complex, very complicated. And I used to be in a really good groove of going to get weekly spray tans where I would let it wear off. Wednesdays were my ugly day. I would get it spray tan Thursday morning, and everything was great. I just have not been in that groove for a long time, and now my schedule is more fluid and flexible, but that also means it's not consistent. So it's difficult for me to have something like that carries over every single week. Anyways, on to more important things. I gained 4 pounds. Please hold your applause. That is the goal here. I know that that's unusual for us as women to celebrate gaining weight, but I've been eating. I have been eating. Not even in the slang sense. I've just been devouring so much food. My caloric intake is sky high right now. I'm trying to put weight on, and it's working. So yay for me. I'm sure some of it is water weight because you can't really gain that much weight that quickly because it's been like 2.5, 3 weeks, but I'm proud of it. So we're seeing that number come up. We're hopefully gonna ovulate again. If I had a soundboard, I would hit this applause button and we could all celebrate. So thank you for that. Thanks for your T's and P's, thoughts and prayers during this time. And yeah, we're just gonna keep pounding food until hopefully my body goes back to normal. We're seeking homeostasis this year. Woo. Okay, on to the report. Reading, still no, sorry. Eating, this is my current food hyperfixation. Taking a rice cake, I've just been doing the plain sea salt ones, but I'm also a big fan of the cheddar rice cakes, and putting a pack of tuna on them, like the sweet and spicy tuna packets that you can get for like $1, and then put cottage cheese on top of that, and then sprinkle it with everything bagel seasoning. I know that sounds like I just listed 4 of the nastiest foods, but it's so good. There's like a crunch from the rice cake. It's salty, but it's not overpowering. The tuna is spicy. The cottage cheese is always delicious. You either love it or you hate it. I personally am a cottage cheese apologist. I think it's great. And then the everything bagel seasoning just brings everything home. So I think it's fantastic. There's so much protein in it, which is a big part of what I'm trying to like incorporate into my food. And I'm so sick of regular meats. Like I'm so sick of chicken and pork and all those things. So I'm looking for creative ways to get my protein, and that's what I've been having like every single day for lunch. And I'm going to whip one up after I finish recording this, because it is a little bit messy, so I'll have to put on a bib or something. Playing, I've been playing songs that feel like the climactic moment in a movie where everything comes together. I actually have a playlist called Happy Ending Roll the Credits. I'll post it if you guys are interested, but just songs that feel like just happy and good. So the one I've been listening to mostly on repeat is called Who Killed Tangerine by Tears for Fears. It's my favorite song at the moment. It's a little bit slow, like to get to the good point, but it was in my favorite rom-com, Fever Pitch, at that exact moment in a movie. And every time I listen to it, it just feels like, oh my gosh, everything's gonna be okay. It makes me want to scream, sing in my car, and that always tends to boost the mood. Obsessing, windows open springtime. That's the exact thing that I wrote down. And it's true. I'm obsessing over having the windows open in springtime. Car windows, house windows, doesn't matter. I don't discriminate. I am an equal opportunity window opener. What am I recommending? This is a fun one. I'm recommending having a silly, happy little thing every day. And bonus, a friend to hold you accountable with finding it. I had my 2-year friendiversary with my friend Susan, and I have 2 friends Susans, which I realize not everyone is lucky enough to even have one amazing friend named Susan. And I have 2, so I don't want to brag, but I do. And we celebrated our 2-year friendiversary, and we're very much of the mentality, because we've both had some years, we've had some challenging years, that you have to find reasons to celebrate. And you're either of one of 2 camps. One where everything is worth celebrating, everything is worth dressing up for, making it a big deal, or nothing is. And I've been in both at different points in my life. I have more fun being in the first one. And I know there's a spectrum and you could fall in the middle of it, but I'm very polarizing at all times with everything. So for me, it's all or nothing. I'm in an all phase of celebrating. I think we should celebrate, making it through the week. Treat yourself Friday. I think we should celebrate friendiversaries. I'm almost to the point of celebrating half birthdays, and not just because mine is coming up. I think we should celebrate everything. I think we should have fun little events for every season. I think that we should have dress prompts, dress codes. Everything should be fun, because I am seeking to have more fun at all times. So in this discussion, we were just talking about how sometimes it's challenging because people, especially our age, are getting into more serious roles in every aspect of their life. People are getting promotions, people are having kids, people are having more serious things take over, their attention, and it can feel childish or trivial to want to have these silly little celebrations and silly things. And as someone right now who obviously I don't have children, sometimes it's hard to be the person who's like, oh my gosh, we should do this, whenever everyone's like, oh, I have kids, I can't just be doing all that. So finding the line between being silly and trivial and just romanticizing life is odd, but we were talking about how this is our one life, it's our one existence on this earth, and it is what you make it, and the time is going to pass regardless. The day, the week, the month, the year, the decade, it's going to pass regardless, and I don't want to look back on it just having survived the day, every day, for 365 days times however many years. So I've talked about that ad nauseum. You guys know how I feel about romanticizing every aspect, but I just don't want to ever become that person that's too busy to enjoy my own life. I don't want to be like a spectator of my own life. I want to be very active in the participation of my days. So with the intentionality of trying to enjoy my days and not just hoping that the enjoyment finds me, you have to seek out the reasons that you're going to enjoy them. So every day, my friend Susan and I have been texting each other and saying what our little thing is that we're enjoying. And it can be as simple as like, she had a really cute applesauce pouch and she's like, I felt really silly eating it, but it made me laugh, and that was it. Like tiny little minuscule things to enjoy your life. One of mine was the playlist that I made. I made a whole new playlist just for a vibe that I was feeling, and it was wonderful, and I've listened to it on repeat, like I said. So little things, a cute new gym outfit, a fun candy that you went and bought at a gas station that you ordinarily wouldn't buy, things of that nature. So every day we report our silly happy thing. The smaller the better, honestly. Like however small you can find of a thing to make you happy, the better, because it doesn't have to be big and grandiose and spectacular to be special. Treating a real spray tan. Anyone who's seen my hands up close for the past couple weeks is like, this is a treat for all of us, actually. All right, thank you for bearing with me through my report. Quite literally, if you look at my outfit, I am reporting something. All right, sip break. I also want to give a shout out to my other friend Susan, who listens to these episodes the day they come out, and then live texts me all of her thoughts, which is very helpful because sometimes I have no idea what I say. So Susan, if you're listening to this, hello from me in the past. I love you. Thank you for the inevitable live text about this moment. Feeling very metaphysical right now. Okay, this topic I've been so excited to discuss with you guys, and here's where it came from. I've been rewatching New Girl, as I'm sure I've talked about. First of all, this show, it's not even just like a slept-on show. I think it truly is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so good. It catches me off guard with the humor all the time, and I find myself cackling at 7 a.m. when I'm doing my makeup. I don't know why I just typed whenever I was doing my makeup, but whenever I'm doing my makeup and I'm watching on my iPad, I'm actually cracking up because it's that funny of a show. So if you haven't watched it, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but maybe it's time to venture out and watch this show because it will warm your heart and also make you laugh until you cry, and then you'll cry. Okay, so watching New Girl, I was just thinking about how much I love these characters. They're endearing, they're funny, they're flawed deeply, but everyone is so uniquely themselves, and every character has like their own shtick. They have their own thing that makes them them. My favorite characters are Nick, Schmidt, Jess. I feel like those are classic answers, but everyone in the show is amazing. Those are just my favorite characters. And as I was watching it, you know, curling my eyelashes or whatever I was doing, I was just thinking about how much more I love them because of how imperfect they are, because they're so much funnier that way, and they're just so much more real and endearing. And then, as these things sometimes happen, a thunderbolt of just introspective thought hit me right upside the head. And it was like, if we love main characters in shows for how imperfect and flawed and quirky and odd they are, did I say odd twice? Who cares? If we can love fictional characters for how flawed they are and how quirky they are, and that's endearing to us, why do we not hold that same standard for ourselves? Why do we feel like we have to be perfect 100% of the time, straight-laced, you know, have all the right answers, be amazing at budgeting, always get to the gym, always do this, always be whatever? And that would be the most boring character to ever watch. So we have this complete double standard whenever it comes to people that we love on screen that are not real, and then ourselves. At least I do. Maybe you guys are much more evolved and you're comfortable with your flaws and your shortcomings. I have historically struggled with that. But I feel like when we have perfect characters, quote unquote, I even tried to compile a list of them to share with you, and I couldn't even find that many good ones. But whenever you have a character that's like complete lawful good, they do everything that they're supposed to do, they always succeed, they win everything, they're honestly usually, one, boring and no one really latches onto them. Two, they're a stereotype or a foil for the main character, or they kind of just exist as this barometer by which to show that the other characters aren't perfect, but they don't really have their own storylines. They're not really evolved or developed because no one latches onto them, because no one can see themselves in that person. So if everyone were as perfect as we would like to be or strive to be, then it would be very challenging to ever get attached to anyone, because you can't relate to someone. There's like nothing to grab onto. And that's where this whole topic originated. Let me see if I can communicate why this was so important to me. I've got some illustrations, don't you worry. So whenever we think about the characters that we love the most, I personally don't think of the characters that always come through, that do everything right, that always have the right answer, that are always self-assured. I always think about the characters that have vulnerability, have things I can be like, oh my gosh, I do that too, or I struggle with that too, or oh, I would have done that same thing. That doesn't happen as often in fantasy books because I rarely find myself in like situations where I have to use a bow and arrow, so they're not as literal of comparisons. But attitude, approach to life, things like that, I might see myself reflected back at me. But if you were to seek out a new show and every single character in the show didn't struggle, they had the answer, they were calm, they never freaked out, they didn't get stressed, they had a 10-step morning routine that always involved the gym, and they ate super healthy, no one would watch it. It would be so boring. You'd click off of it in a heartbeat and you'd go find Gossip Girl is what you would do. But in thinking about all of those things, like, then why do I feel like I'm a failure for having any of those things? And I've gotten much better at embracing my own quirks. Quirks are different than flaws, in my opinion. But my quirks, I'm like, you know what? I'll embrace my sense of style. I'll embrace my obsessive nature. I'll embrace my nerdy interests. I'll embrace whatever else. I can embrace my quirks a little bit better. I used to very much struggle with that because even though they made me unique, and now I use the word unique because it has positive connotations, whenever I was in junior high, high school, and even college, it wasn't unique, it was weird. And I didn't want something to make me weird. So I never leaned into that side of my personality because I didn't want something that would give me a clear divide from someone else or just, my age group as a whole. I wanted things that would make me feel included and a part of something, and things that made me feel cohesive with society. Now, those are much easier. I think there's a million reasons for that. You get older, you get more mature, you stop caring as much about what people think, and you realize it's your own life. So if you're going to live it trapped in a cage of what everyone else and what society thinks that you should like, then, you're locking yourself in the cage, and I didn't want to do that. So there's a million reasons why I've become more okay with that. But the flaws side of it, the actual shortcomings or things that I struggle with, that's a lot harder for me to digest because I still want to be the best at everything, even though I know that's obviously not realistic. I'm keenly aware of my own flaws. I just am not accepting of them yet. So I went ahead and compiled a list of all my favorite characters. And I pulled a list of people's favorite characters, like some of the most beloved characters of all time across TV, movies, books, things of that nature, fiction. And then I picked my favorites from them because I didn't want to just pick all my favorite characters. You guys would be bored. So I picked some that are universally beloved, as well as loved by myself. So let's go through my perfectly compiled list. First, Harry Potter. I'm sure you know the name. So let me preface too. Whenever we're talking about characters being imperfect, I don't want to talk about like, oh, well, this character is a war criminal and like also kind of a mass murderer, but it was good because it was in the fairy wars and he was mass murdering people for good. And that's why his flaw is that he's incredibly violent. And it's okay if you are also incredibly violent or things like that. I don't want to say that because our favorite characters are deeply flawed in like an unhealthy coping mechanism, destructive tendency, horrible person kind of way. I don't want to say we should use that as maybe the catalyst for us to do those things as well. I'm talking more about like the innate parts of your personality that make you unique, that make you who you are, not just bad and or illegal behaviors. Let's just make that clear up front. What you do with this information is up to you, but I'm really talking about more of the small scale personality things versus reckless endangerment of yourself and others. Okay, now they're on the same page. So Harry Potter, specifically book Harry, because movie Harry is a little bit different. If you have read and seen the movies, you understand. But he's short-tempered, he's reckless, impulsive, he struggles to verbalize and express his emotions. He has a chosen one complex where sometimes it makes him like holier than thou and sometimes makes him think that he is odd and, on an island, which he is. He has trouble asking for help. He is more than a little bit stubborn. He's not the best student. He's forgetful. And he's bad at talking to girls. So he has so many flaws, obviously. But he's also widely regarded as one of the best fictional characters of all time. He still is the chosen one. He's still a hero. And I even wrote down that he forgot the password to the common room so many times, sometimes just because he was emotionally overwhelmed. And if that ain't me, I remember everything except for crucial things at crucial times whenever I really need to know a certain piece of information. So he's just like me for real. I think that him being so emotionally reactive and scattered in the books, it just kind of serves as a catalyst for moving the story forward. Like he himself is very reactive. He's young and he's been dealing with a lot of things as he tries to defeat the Dark Lord. So we just brushed off as like, oh yeah, I would do the same thing. But then when we find ourselves reacting poorly to a situation or being forgetful or struggling with school or work or maybe being a little bit reckless and not having the best self-preservation tendencies, then we can beat ourselves up for those things. So while we should strive to improve, maybe don't be so reckless and so stubborn when people are offering you help, then understand that's okay. That's just part of who you are. Number 2, I'm sure everyone could have predicted that this was coming. We're going with Mr. Tony Stark, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. He has many, many great qualities, okay? Physically, emotionally, intellectually, the list goes on. I could make a whole episode about that. But he also has a long list of flaws. Again, I want to note I'm not encouraging these behaviors. I'm just making a note of the flaws. So he's egotistical. He's emotionally avoidant. He talks too much. He talks too quickly. He overthinks. He makes jokes at inappropriate times. He has an immense self-destructive streak. He can be selfish. He also has a tendency to mask real emotions with humor and sarcasm. I don't know anyone here who does that, but it's worth noting. So while he's, again, widely regarded as one of the best fictional characters of all time, he has some very real personality flaws. So it's easy to think of him as like he's witty, he's funny, he's tough, he's strong, he's a genius. But look at all these other flaws that he has, even just down to his communication style and how he processes his own grief and things of that nature. He also is known to snack during very serious work meetings, i.e. life-changing, world-saving type meetings. And I think that's fine. I, myself, like a good snack in a stressful situation. Number 3, Nick Miller from New Girl. I did not struggle to find flaws for him, believe it or not. He is lazy, disorganized, bad with money, emotionally constipated. He has irrational anger issues. He drinks too much. He has problems with executing his own plans. He has man-child tendencies. He also did not know how to wash towels until like the age of 32. And did not know that you're supposed to. So the list goes on. I, again, would love to reiterate that I'm not saying you should just be okay with being lazy and, emotionally stunted, have anger issues. But Nick is so loved. He's probably everyone's favorite character from New Girl. He makes the show, to be honest. I think that he's so charismatic. He's so funny. He's so quirky. But if he did not exist in the show, imagine trying to watch New Girl if Nick were normal, if he had his life together, if Nick went to the gym, if he wasn't a bartender, if he wasn't trying to write his Pepperwood Chronicles novel, all of these things. If he were just a normal person with no real identifiable flaws, the show would have been horrible. We wouldn't have attached ourselves to him because there's a point in everyone's life where you're like, ooh, I was kind of in a Nick Miller phase, even if you're ashamed to admit it. And I think that's what makes us so drawn to him. So, but he has so many good characteristics as well. All these characters do. That's just not what the episode is about. In the same vein of New Girl, we're going with Schmidt. I think I myself am a Schmidt. Yeah, I'm going to double down on that one. His flaws, I shouldn't have said this before I go into his flaws. He's vain, he's a tryhard, he talks too much, he's slightly delusional, he's insecure despite his bravado, he can be overbearing, obsessive, and controlling. Yeah, I'm going to stand by what I said. So he obviously has all these quirks. They had to have the douchebag jar for him to put $1 in every time he made a douchey comment. He's maybe a little bit materialistic. He's definitely into his own appearance. But you know what? Who among us isn't into our own appearance to some extent? I'm not going to make excuses for him. But he's also ambitious. He's so loyal. He's so caring. There are so many great examples of how he can be amazing on the flip side. But again, this is not what it's about. If he, again, were another roommate that were just so together, because he's the one who's together on paper, okay? He has the best job, he makes the most money, he's the most organized, he's in the best shape. He's the one who's the best character on paper. But if that were all he was, if he didn't have his sense of humor and his little idiosyncrasies, he would not be a fun character to watch, because even though he has the routines down pat and he has these things, you know, this little checklist of life success markers done, he is far from like a normal, boring character. So it's the quirks that make it delicious, right? Jess, I put her on here, but I don't need to go into this. Everyone knows Jess Day. Everyone knows her quirks. She's like, anyone that Zooey Deschanel plays is the definition of like a manic pixie dream girl. Jess is no different than that. Her quirks make her lovable and adorable and human. It also makes her that one character that you're watching the show at the beginning and you're like, I don't know if I can watch this because I don't know if I can do all of this. And all of this is just her character. But then you grow to love her so much. And sometimes I think that's how people perceive me. They're like, I don't know if I can do all this. And then hopefully they grow to love me. But if not, it's okay. They're probably not listening to this episode anyways. Number 6, the queen herself, Blair Waldorf. So she's, again, very outwardly flawed. And I don't think I realized this until I'm either rewatching Gossip Girl all the way through or getting live text from another friend that I have made watch the show for the first time. I don't realize how flawed she really is, because at least from my perspective, she's the best character in the entire show. She has the most growth, the most development. She's the most interesting, the easiest to root for, and so on. But then I did a full rewatch of the show a few months ago, and I was watching, I'm like, oh, she really is crazy. Like, she's very insecure, very manipulative, very quick to anger, very judgmental. She has a complex. She's a queen bee. She's very much a perfectionist. She derives her self-worth from either the public's perception or from material things, net worth of her family, name brand clothing, and so on and so forth. So she has all of these negative characteristics that if you put her on paper, you would be like, she's the worst, actually. She's mean and judgmental and controlling and harsh and exacts revenge on people. And why do people even love her? But then watching her as a character, she's so three-dimensional and she just explodes off the screen, and you want to root for her because you can see the reasons behind why she is the way that she is. So the way that her parents treated her, the way that she's been viewed by society, the shadow of her friend that she's always been in, you can see all these things and it humanizes her and you can relate to that. So you can look at her and be like, I was friends with a Serena. I know why she's acting this way. Or I was, strung along by this guy. I understand why she's doing this. Or, I felt like I was worth literally nothing whenever I failed, quote, at this thing. So I can see why she's spiraling and trying to ruin someone's life. Maybe I didn't take the same approach following my alleged failure, but the fact remains. You understand her and you want to root for her, not because of all of her shortcomings and flaws, but kind of. Like, it's not really in spite of them either. You don't love her despite her flaws. You don't love her because of her flaws. I think you love her as this entire package of who she is. And it also makes her strengths that much more powerful because you see how she's grappling with both sides of the coin. So you can see whenever she has these moments of maturity and forgiveness and empathy and maybe not ruining someone's life when she has a chance to, you can see more growth, and you love those moments even more because it's not always who she is. So the complexity of a character that struggles with things and then also succeeds, that's way more satisfying as a viewer whenever you see that versus someone who's just, oh, well, he's Superman. Of course, he always wins. I hope that makes sense. And I put down as a note that one time she got super wasted in her dorm room because she didn't get into a social club and she spiraled about it being a metaphor for her life. Relatable? Possibly. Next, continuing along the iconic female character train, we have Miss Brooke Penelope Davis. So again, I didn't have to search far for flaws for many of these characters. She's insecure, defensive, she uses humor to deflect, she struggles with her self-worth, she's self-sabotaging, she can be cruel. The list goes on. But she's also one of the best characters in that show, if not the best. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say she is the best. She carried the entire show, even more so as it goes on. So with her, again, when someone starts out so blatantly imperfect, you can really see their growth. You can see how much distance they've put between themselves and the person that they were, or the trauma that has been inflicted on them. And we don't love her because she's beautiful and she has a great career and that's it. We don't love her for those things. We love her because she's strong and that she's resilient and she continues to fight through these things, even if some of those things are problems of her own making. And we love her because we can see her grappling with, should she be cruel? Should she be kind? Should she be hard? Should she be soft? We see her grappling with all of those things, and that's what we really love. And the fact that she's not at the beginning portrayed as the most book smart character. She's portrayed as more of a party girl and an airhead, and she's not really committed to her studies, and her whole plan for getting out of her town is to use her appearance and use her sexuality and make her own life that way. And if you've watched the show, you know that's not what happens. So I think that starting off with someone who's not this it girl, as far as she's got everything figured out, she's good at everything somehow, seeing her as someone who knows her strengths but is also deeply entrenched in weaknesses. You just want her to succeed. Spoiler alert, she does. She's amazing. All right, we're switching to the literary world. We're going with two of my favorite characters. One, Manon Blackbeak from the Throne of Glass series. So this is kind of who I was talking about whenever I was saying that when I say these characters are flawed, I don't mean like they'll literally rip your throat out and that's okay because they're awesome kind of character. I just mean with Manon specifically, we meet her when she's very detached, she's cold, ruthless, she's slow to trust, and she's very war trained. And we just see her undergo this emotional dilemma. I know there's probably some people that haven't finished the series, so I don't want to spoil it for you. But we just see her go through this incredible transformation where she has to reflect on everything that she's ever been taught, everything she knows about herself. And though the circumstances of her going through that are probably not something most of us encounter in our everyday modern lives, there's a lot to be said for the metaphor there and facing all of these truths about yourself, about who you are, about the world around you, and then questioning that as you get older and grappling with the identity crisis of when to act and how to act and, you know, who to act in favor of and so on. Sorry that's really vague. I don't want to ruin that for anyone, but I'll just move along. Next, we're also going into another book girl. We're talking about Nesta from A Court of Thorns and Roses. Nesta is very polarizing. People either love her or they hate her. I love her. I think I actually imprinted on the book A Court of Silver Flames because I was reading it in a really dark time in my life, and seeing Nesta come out of her own dark period, it was like very parallel to whenever I was trying to work out of mine. And I feel like every time I mention that that's my favorite book, everyone's like, oh yeah, like I love that book too, because they're talking about the romantic nature of the book being pretty intense throughout. And I would tell you if that was the case. It's not. I promise you, I love that book for so many. I've even skipped through the heavier romantic chapters, if you know what I mean. It's just so personal to me because you just see where you meet her and how she lashes out at everyone and how she's so cruel and so cutting and keeps everyone at arm's length and just does not have any desire to honestly live, but also to improve herself at all. She doesn't think she's worth working on. And then she completely transforms that. She fights for herself. She fights for her friends. She fights for her happiness. And she becomes someone that she's proud to be. So I am a Nesta apologist to the bitter end. I think that it shows, obviously does not shy away from showing her flaws. She's bitter, she's prideful, she's sharp-tongued, she's emotionally avoidant, she's an alcoholic, she holds grudges, she's filled with shame, she's depressed. All of these things. She's very, very flawed. But she is the perfect example of looking in the mirror and facing those things and then overcoming them. I could also write a long, long essay about how people misjudge her and they act like she's the worst person on the face of the planet. But then if she were a morally gray male character, they would like be putting stickers of her on their laptop and their Kindle and being like, oh my gosh, like she's amazing. I love morally gray men. But then heaven forbid we have a morally gray female who's been through some trauma. All of a sudden we don't want to defend her. I don't think so. Okay. Moving on. Leslie Knope, the one and only. She is, it's hard to find flaws for her because she's amazing and perfect and I would lay down my life for her. But she's a workaholic. She's a micromanager. She's a little bit naive. She's emotionally intense. She always needs a project. She always needs to be moving forward. And sometimes it's her way or the highway. Again, this is one of the few characters I had to search very, very hard to find these flaws because she's amazing. But Leslie is a career woman. She's ambitious. She's excited. She loves her town. She's positive. All of these things work in her favor, but she's not perfect. She's very quirky. She's sometimes left out of inside jokes. She's organized and neurotic to a fault. There's just so many things about her that you watch and you're like, this is not a real person, which I know it's not a real person, but she's endearing not because of her positive traits. I mean, she's loyal, she's unstoppable whenever she's like in pursuit of her career goals and things for Pawnee. She's motivated, she's smart, but no one loves her for those reasons. Like if those were all the traits that made her her, we would be like, oh yeah, Leslie's awesome. I would vote for her for city council, but like I wouldn't really be her friend. There's not much there. So again, it's her quirks and her flaws that just make her so amazing. This next one I might lose some of you guys on. Spencer Shea from iCarly. I think he was the best character in the entire show. I'm just going to say it. He was the best. He's a grown man-child. He's a struggling artist. He's easily distracted. He's eccentric. He's chaotic. He's scattered, etc., etc., etc. But he's the one that we remember the most from the show. At least I do. I think that he's so memorable because he's unapologetically himself. He's hilarious. Obviously, most of the time he's like the butt of the joke, but he's also, obviously, he's considerate, he's kind, he's loyal, he's nurturing, he's protective, and so on. But I just think that if he were a stereotypical big brother figure who paid the rent and wore a tie and went to his job, he wouldn't be in the slightest bit memorable. He wouldn't even come close to making this list. So, again, quirks carry. All right, down to the final two. I don't know why I picked just 13 characters. That's a very odd number to pick, but Lorelai Gilmore, obviously. Okay, she talks too much. She talks too fast. She avoids hard conversation. She's commitment phobic. She avoids vulnerability. She's impulsive. She doesn't like authority. She tends to be hyper independent. And yeah, that's it. She's a little bit stunted in her growth because she had to grow up too quickly. But Lorelai, she was the top of pretty much every single list of everyone's favorite TV characters of all time because she's so, obviously she's beautiful and she's funny and people want to root for her for that reason. But I think it's because she's so imperfect. You know, she has a crippling fast food dependency, which if that were real, I would probably also have a crippling fast food dependency if given her metabolism. Because, you know, the way that they eat, there's absolutely no way she should look like that. But that's neither here nor there. A girl can dream. If you look at how Rory is portrayed in the original seasons, she's not very relatable. I think she's someone that you might envy if you're that age, or you might think that she's young and naive and adorable, but there's not really much to relate to because she's just a sweet, soft-spoken, idealistic girl who wants to do well in school and build a good career. And that's really it. But Lorelai, you can see, obviously she got pregnant in high school. That's the biggest, quote, flaw, I guess you would say, in her character arc. But with her personality, she is a single mom trying to make it in the world. She's often running late. She doesn't do the laundry. She doesn't like to clean her house. She doesn't like to cook. She has a crippling coffee dependency. She's funny and she's a great mom and gives great advice, but she's also more of a friend. So I think you can see a lot of yourself no matter what stage you're in Lorelai, because you can see her struggling to keep her head above water. You can also see her masking it with humor. You can see her go through deep emotional things and then try and figure it out. You can just see her be a mess. And I think that's why everyone wants to root for her so badly. It's because there is distance between who she is and who she could be, who she is and who she wants to be. And you want to see her get there, but you love her because she's not there. And I always forget that that's something I could apply to my own life, you know? Let me finish this, then we'll go into that. Last, Dwight Schrute. I had to. Dwight is the weirdest, most off-putting, probably irritating person to ever exist in a sitcom-based TV show. That's a lot of criteria, but he's obviously intense. He's socially awkward. He's one-track minded. He's rigid, obsessive. He has an odd superiority complex. He's obsessed with his boss. He's obsessed with paper. Yeah, there's a lot of things with him, but can you imagine the show without him? Can you imagine The Office without Dwight? There is none. It was barely an Office without Michael Scott, but Dwight is intensely quirk written. So, I don't know. Let me try and break that down into something sentimental and not just me listing why all my favorite characters are imperfect. But I think that when we look at ourselves, and every time I say when we do something, I'm talking about me. I just don't want to say when I look at myself. But looking at ourselves, all we see is the distance between where we're at and who we are versus where we want to be and who we want to be. And you can see how much distance you have to make up and how far you have to go and all the steps that you need to enact to get from point A to point B and, you know, everything you're falling short on. But you forget those moments of you becoming from where you are to where you're going. That's the character arc that makes people relate to you, that makes people enamored with you, or endears you to other people. And not that we live our lives thinking about how people will then view us when we've come full circle and, our character arc is concluded. It's not that. It's just more so whatever you struggle with, if you are very, very short-tempered, if you're very disorganized, if you're struggling to figure out who you are because you feel like you should have had it all accomplished by now, or if your love life is terrible, or if you can't pick one passion in your life, or whatever it is, there's beauty in that, because I think that that's what makes you a person. That's what makes you relatable. It's what makes you you. And to hold yourself to this notion that you should have everything together, that you should never miss a workout, you should always be structured, that your closet should always be clean, that you should never overspend or overeat or say something out of turn or embarrass yourself in public, to hold yourself to that is just completely unrealistic, not to mention boring. So if we wouldn't hold these people that we live to entertain ourselves with, that we love to watch, that we love to identify ourselves with, and even motivate ourselves with, like, there are so many characters on this list that I'll look at and be like, I should be more like Brooke Davis, I should be more like Blair Waldorf, I should be more like, well, I wouldn't say Nick Miller, but you know what I mean? There's so many characters that are fictional that we look to for inspiration because of their good side, and then completely discredit all their flaws. So if I can look up to or want to emulate all of these people for what's good, why can't I give myself grace for my flaws that they also have? Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know if this is getting translated at all to what I'm trying to say. But basically, you never watch a show about someone who never struggles. You get bored after one episode. We already said that. But characters with flaws reflect parts of ourselves back at us. And I think if you let it, it can make you forgive yourself for those things. So if you notice who your favorite characters are, I could be wrong. I haven't tested this hypothesis, but if you look at your favorite characters, I'm guessing there are parts of you in them. It's someone who, like, if you can tell, a lot of my favorite characters, they just deflect their trauma with humor and sarcasm. They talk very quickly. They are hyper independent. Things like that. They're always working on something and, can be a little bit neurotic. So maybe there's something to unpack there. I don't know. Maybe just make a brief mental list of all your favorite fictional characters. Maybe some of their more defining traits, and see if there's anything self-reflective that you can do with that information. Let me know if you find something. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher. This is just a topic that came to me. Okay, I haven't fully thought it through, if you couldn't tell. But I think that we are not fictional characters, obviously, no matter how much I like to pretend or wish that I was. But there's a lot to be learned from the acceptance that we have for people on screen and the acceptance that we can have for people in real life. So whether this pertains to you in your own self-image, not holding yourself to an impossible standard, maybe you need to hear it in a way that you're holding someone else to an impossible standard. That's for you to determine. But if someone described you the way they would describe a character, I don't think that they would go into it and say, like, oh, yeah, she's awesome, but she, like, does not make it to the gym that regularly. No one would ever say that. They would be like, oh my gosh, I always laugh whenever I'm with her. She's so funny. She's always picked up the phone whenever I've called. We have the best time. She knows all the best coffee shops in town. And things like that. Like the things that people would list about you that would make you a great fictional character that people would fall in love with and, like, make fan edits of and write fan fictions about and, like, talk on Reddit about how you're the best character ever and you deserved a better ending. All the things that make you that person, people think about you in real life. You just don't notice them about yourself because you don't perceive yourself in that way. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know. The thing is, we don't love perfection. We love realness. Let's say that again. We don't love perfection. We love authenticity. We love endearing imperfections. We love effort. So we have this whole idea that being perfect means being put together. Well, that's not what I meant to say. Sorry, I'm second guessing myself because I'm thinking, did this make sense at all? And now I'm 50 minutes into it and I don't even know if it did. But we mistake being lovable with being low maintenance. And we think that in order to be universally beloved, which we're never meant to be at all, by the way, then you have to be not flawed, not problematic, not difficult, not messy, not chaotic. And that's not the truth at all. So we don't need to be low maintenance to be lovable. We don't need to be anything to be lovable. but even more so, most of the characters that we love the most are the exact opposite of that anyways. They're not low maintenance, they're incredibly high maintenance and difficult and chaotic and stressful and erratic and all the above. So I don't know, I just think there's a lot to be found in the idea that your imperfections make you better. They make you more lovable. They make you you. So I don't know. I like you guys. I think that you're great. Hopefully you think that I'm all right, but I'm hoping and praying that this landed. I wrote a couple notes. Let me read them and see if they make any sense. Okay, you're not supposed to be universally likable. You're supposed to be interesting in yourself. And interesting, I want to put an asterisk by, because you're not meant to be interesting for everyone either. You're not supposed to be universally anything. You're not supposed to be universally stylish. Not everyone's going to like your outfits, okay? That I have found quite true in my own life. You're not supposed to be universally funny. Not everyone will think you're funny. There's not a person on the planet that everyone thinks is funny, okay? You're just supposed to be yourself. You're supposed to be interesting to you. And flaws are your charm. That's what people remember. Your flaws are your charm. Yes. Your contradictions make you three-dimensional. I have said this many times. I do love to pretend like I'm a character in a TV show. I like to pretend that this is not real life. This is just some kind of like a fun little fictional thing. I'm like just a very self-aware character, breaking the fourth wall at all times, hoping and praying that the writers for the upcoming seasons give me better storylines, because I've had enough self-development. I would like some filler episodes. I like to joke and pretend about all those things. But honestly, that whole mentality, as silly as it is, as much as I joke about it, has helped me with my self-view immensely, because I've taken so much pressure off of myself. It's funnier to think of yourself as like a funny, even side character, because I don't know, this is going to be a whole other episode, but there's a whole push with being the main character of this and doing whatever else. What's wrong with just being like the quirky best friend? People love that character anyways. What's wrong with just being the fun side character and taking the pressure off of yourself to have this immensely perfect, amazing life, always overcoming, always achieving things, always doing amazing stuff? Why can't you just be the friend that everyone loves when they have screen time? I don't know. It's fine. It's not that serious. Next, imperfections invite connection. They make space for others to be real around you. I also have found that to be the case, because the more of myself I embarrassingly expose via the internet in this podcast, the more depth I find in my connections, because by revealing these parts of myself that I'm not so proud of, or that I'm not, didn't think I would be advertising, then people can come to me and it appears that they feel safe enough to talk to me about them. And I've made some amazing connections because of it. And I'm very thankful for that. So finally, just remember that the one thing that you worry that people will dislike about you might be the exact thing that makes them love you. Yeah, that was really sweet. I did only take 3 sips of this drink, by the way. I was counting, and it's been 53 minutes and 7 seconds, and I was right about that. I don't know, guys. I hope this made sense. I love it in theory. I hope that this was a fully digestible idea for you, and that you just are enjoying your Thursday, contemplating why you like your favorite characters and what flaws they reflect back at you. So have fun with that little nugget to chew on. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine. I hope you have all mountains, no valleys. I hope you know how to tie. Hope you treat yourself on Friday, and I will see you next week. Bye.